had so much fun talking with this wonderful woman. Today you'll hear her expert advice of how to make yourself stand out as a writer in the TV industry, and also how a stay-at-home working mum makes it work. If you're watching this on video in a techie, you'll also enjoy the Lego she's got on the table. Yeah, she's pretty awesome. Let's go. Our Wonder Woman today writes and produces for amazing places like The Nerdist Show, Hash Parent, Geek Mum, Ninja Warrior, and Attack of the Show. Not only that, she's produced 2 short films for Lucasfilms. Welcome, Kristen Rutherford.
Hi.
Great to have you on today.
Everybody, hi.
Awesome. So, Kristen, what is your greatest joy as a parent?
I think being a parent, I don't think there's one great joy. I think that being a parent is made up of a million teeny, tiny little joys, if that makes any sense. It's like one massive, it seems like one massive organism, and then if you dive down deeper into it, you realize that it's made up of tiny organisms. I live in Los Angeles. That's called the ghetto bird here.
Awesome.
That giant helicopter that just went over us. But I have this little book that I love called Mom's One Line a Day, and it's a 5-year journal where you just write one thing down every day. And I've been doing that all year this year. I started this year, and that's really crystallized that there are little tiny things that happen every day that just make my heart so full and I think they just they go away. They escape because there's so much that goes on, and there's so many wonderful things that happen to you as when you're a parent that you lose moments. And so it's been really nice because it's helped me crystallize that there are these tiny joys every day that are very simple, just like a little thing she says or something that she achieved or something that we worked out. And then when I'm really looking forward to when the 5 years are done, when I finally finish this and maybe I can answer this question better and say, oh, here is the giant joy of the whole thing.
No, I love this segment of it. Yeah, I absolutely love that idea, and I must write that like you do each day. Write down something special that's happened that day. It's such a great idea. It's awesome. So
it is, because my friend says to me, she said to me, I forget how she put it, because she put it so eloquently. She said something like the tragedy of being a parent is that, or how'd she put it? The cruel trick of Mother Nature is that you only know the child in front of you and you forget the child that was, and so you lose a lot of that stuff, and so you're so enthralled with what's going on in the moment that you forget sometimes all of the little things that led up to it. So this has really been a very nice thing for me.
It's great. So we have lots of warm memories of our families, but do you have a warm memory from your childhood that stands out?
My mother was a very, very good cook, and I don't mean like a gourmet cook. My mom's Italian, and she was the first one born in this country, and I remembered a lot of very good dinners. I know that sounds
awesome.
Like such a weird thing, but like I said, she wasn't a gourmet cook, so it wasn't like we had these crazy things. Although I did have a boyfriend who came over one time. We dropped by the house, and she didn't have anything for dessert, so she took some fruit, she sautéed it, and then she poured alcohol on it and set it on fire, and then dumped it over ice cream.
Whoa.
And he said to me, "Does this happen all the time here?" And I was kind of like, "Oh yeah, pretty much yes." But I do remember things like friends, like we going out at night, and we'd come home in the middle of the night, and no matter what time it was, if my mom would be like, do you want some mozzarella and eggs? And be like, well, yeah, we do at 3 o'clock in the morning. Sure. I just have lots of, she was always like, she's still like that. If you go over the house, she's like, what do you want? So what do you want to eat? So I have a lot of nice food memories, with my family, and just like, and now that, I'm a parent, I also marvel at how she managed to pull dinner together every night after night, because that is really hard.
Yeah, I agree. Your mum sounds awesome. What an amazing mum.
Yeah, she was great.
So, do you have a quote that's motivated and inspired you on your journey?
You know what? No, I do not.
Ah.
I don't like quotes. If you look at my Pinterest board, or my Pinterest boards, I don't have one of the boards. It's like quotes that inspire me. And if you follow me on Pinterest and I go to follow you back, I'll click on all your boards except the ones that have quotes on them.
No.
Because I don't know why that is. I mean, I'm inspired. I've been inspired by literature and I've been inspired by things that I have read, but I've never been someone that, carries this like, oh, this is the quote that really, that's what changed me, or this is my mantra, or this is what I tell myself. I'm not a quote person.
I wonder if that's because you're so good at writing yourself that you can articulate things your own way.
I don't know. That's very nice of you to say. I mean, because, clearly I'm no Robert Frost, so, I chose the road less traveled is a very nice way to say that. But I was like, oh, I don't really need to look at those words to remind me that, hey, it might be more interesting to do this instead of this. Do you know what I mean?
Awesome. You're more of a doer. Let's just do it.
Right?
Yeah, agreed. That's cool. So what inspired you to become a head creative writer and producer?
I really fell into it. I don't know how, my first big writing job was for Pop-Up Video, and that was it was a long time ago. I'm monstrously old, and it was one of those things where, I majored in writing in school, but I double majored in theater, and I used to joke, oh, if my drama degree doesn't work out, I'll fall back on my poetry degree, and I really do feel like, oh my goodness, I did that. And when I applied for the job at Pop-Up Video, it was actually an old boyfriend of mine was a writer there, and he wanted to quit, and so he didn't want to just leave them in the lurch, so he suggested me. And you had to take a writer's test, and I took it, and the producer liked it, and he went into his office, and he said, well, what's this girl's background? And my response when he's telling me the story, I said, what did you tell him? And he said, I told him you have a degree in writing. And I said, oh yeah, I do, don't I? And this is I have one of my best friends, this is her favorite story. She's like, this is my favorite story about you because you're the only person I know that would forget that you have a degree in something. Like that you would be all panicky, like, oh no, I'm a phony. And I feel, so I really did, it was, they always say like, success is opportunity and knowing what to do with it. And I just had this amazing opportunity, and it worked out. And it turns out I'm good at being snarky.
You're awesome. So good. So, what do you believe is your greatest success?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, the obvious one is I have this awesome daughter, and it's such a trite answer, but
that's right.
Holy crap, she's awesome. And like people will say to me, they see her pictures on Facebook or when they meet her and they'll say, oh, she's really awesome. And I feel like I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that's my daughter. I can't believe that's my daughter. She's so amazing to me. And she's smart and hilarious. And she's just a really good little friend. And I feel like number one, it's sort of trite to say to you, oh, that's my greatest success, because I feel like, well, she's not about me, she's her own person. So it's weird to say that this person is your success because she is who she is. But she did come out of me, and I did, make an organ to sustain her while she was in me, so I will take just a little bit of that credit.
No, absolutely. There's a whole lot of nurture in there, and you're not the first person who has said that, because you invest a lot of time and and money, of course, but definitely time and love, and yeah, absolutely. That's great. So as a writer and a producer, or especially as a producer, you'd be organising things all the time. And do you find that skill helpful as a parent as well?
No, I think it's the opposite.
Awesome.
I feel like at work I'm organized and I get things done, and I'm a very hard worker.
Sure. But
I feel like at home I can be a hot mess, and I'll we'll get into bed at night and I think, oh, I forgot to brush her teeth. How did that slip out of my, but I feel like it's the opposite. I feel like my home life influences my work more than any skill set that I have at work, because I have an outlet at home, which is, very creative. I can spend all morning painting little birdhouses with her in the backyard and just like being super creative. And then she goes to preschool and I can sit and write for a while. And I find that it's a really refreshing, right brain break for me to just do all these super creative things with her. And then it frees me up to write my own stuff later on when I have my private time or my gold time where I can write or get whatever it is that I have to done, or just be creative about something, not necessarily writing, but just, there have been times where when she's at school, I just sit in the backyard and paint little birdhouses by myself.
Quiet time.
Yeah, I've just realized I'm just painting and I'm just happy to just be Mod Podging something.
That's awesome. So with your you've mentioned that she goes to preschool and that's how you get some of the work done. Is there other support systems you have in order to have the balance of work and your daughter?
This has been the hardest. She just turned 4, and the last 4 years have been the hardest in my life. They have been the hardest.
I'd have to agree.
Because the balancing. Because here's the thing, I'm not a working mom. I've seen women who at 4 months they have to turn their kids over to a daycare, and those kids go to daycare all day and they go to an office all day, and those women are amazing to me. It's amazing that they can do that and they get stuff done. And then on the other hand, you've got the stay-at-home moms who are the same. They're working. They work. We all know what a stay-at-home mom does, the work that is involved. And, but I've been this hybrid of both, because a lot of the work that I do from home, like when Ninja Warrior was on the air, I did that from home. And I used to, and when I would, at the time, the G4 network was still around, and I used to, well, it's still around, but there were still, shows that were, I forget. I can't even make words. Look at me. I can't even make words because I'm tired. But you know what I mean? Like they had in-house productions that were going on there. Yeah. And I used to do E3 and Comic-Con for them. And I don't have family out here in California. I'm from the East Coast, and I used to fly my mom out here. I would work. What I would do is I would spend all day with the baby, and then put her to sleep, and then I would work until 3 o'clock in the morning writing. And then for those shows that were live, I would do that for a few weeks. Then I would fly my mom out here, because it was worth it for me to spend part of my salary for those last couple of weeks to have my mom come, someone that could take care of her, so that I could go into the studio or go into the control room and work the shows. And it has just been trying to balance that. There have been times where I feel like I'm constantly, like, I have my phone for, like I had one job where I had to have my phone constantly alerting me every time I got an email, because the thing about being a working from home mom, but also being able to be, you know what I mean? Like I was like this, being that kind of hybrid, was that you're on all the time. You're actually working all the time, and you feel like you're held to this not a double standard, but this higher standard, because I always felt like I've got to respond to emails faster, and I've got to do things faster, because if there's a lag time between a question and my answer, the go-to is, she's probably with her kid,
Oh, yes, and you have to work the extra harder.
Yeah, so you feel like you have to work double, and I've always thought there should be like some kind of, I wish I could have, I should maybe found a support group for people who'd fall in between the cracks of working moms and stay-at-home moms, because sometimes I'm a stay-at-home mom. Today I'm not working. Today I'm a stay-at-home mom. But yesterday I had a job, and I was working, and I had to get coverage. So I'm lucky because I have my husband who is he's amazing. He's amazing. He also, when he's freelance now too, and when he's not working, he's an executive producer, and I'm always like, oh, he produces the shit out of my house. My house is so clean, and he does the laundry, and he does the dishes, and it's amazing. It's wonderful. So he's really, he's really wonderful, because I actually had a mom come over, and we were talking in the kitchen, and she said to me, she goes, very sort of nervous, goes, how do you keep the house so clean? And I was like, I was like, I'm doing the dishes right now because I'm scared. Because I don't want to get fired from the house. But you know, I have a nice support system now in LA. Like I've met other moms that I would be friends with. I always say I'd be friends with them even if we hadn't somehow weirdly had sex at the same time. And like we have more in common than just we had our babies in September.
Sure.
And that's been very, very helpful. Yeah. And I got super lucky with her preschool. The woman who is the director of her preschool and I have become very good friends. And there have been several times where, because of her kindness and generosity and support, I was able to go to Amsterdam to cover an event, and it was my first time away from Vivian, first time overnight away from her, and I only could do it because she said, well, you know, because I said, well, my husband's working, what am I going to do? And she said, just have him drop her off at my house in the morning, and I'll just, because the school is in the house behind her house. And so she said, she'll play with my daughter in the morning, and then I'll just walk them into the backyard, and then he can come pick her up at night. And then the next day he took the day off. And I mean, she's been and she's become a very, very good friend of mine. Yeah. So, but a lot of it has been, I feel like it's been 4 years. It's always a shell game of, when I get a job, I'm always excited because I think, oh, I've got this awesome job. But then starts the shell game of, okay, well, who's going to take her to preschool and who's going to pick her up? And I want to spend time with her. So when am I going to make this time? And oh my God, my stomach hurts even just like my eyes twitching a little bit right now. Just thinking you.
You're doing a great job, absolutely. And you know, the times when you've brought your mum over, like, I'm sure she would have loved that time with your daughter, you know. It's just so special.
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
It's also nice, like, your mom, I mean, you know, to have your mom there. I mean, my babysitter right now is wonderful because she's, I was her nanny in New York when she was little. Yeah, and she's now 23, and she moved to Los Angeles. She's an actress. She's a really good actress. She went to high school performing arts and Tisch, and she loves my daughter, and she's like having a sister here. So that's been a big change, and that's been very nice. But even her, who loves my daughter, the difference between her and my mother, who like never gets tired of when I'm like, let's go look at what she's doing. Look what she's doing. Isn't that amazing? It's amazing what she's doing. And my mom is just right there like, oh, it's amazing. And like, you know, what she's eating, like peas. You know, right? It's like nothing. It's not amazing at all, but it's so amazing.
Yeah, because she can do it now. It's so cool.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So we've come to our well round. This is where I'm going to ask you some quick questions, and you're going to come back with some amazing answers. Are you ready to inspire?
Okay. I'm going to try. Awesome. All right, wait, all right. Here we go.
Okay, so Kristen, what is your superpower?
I'm a good baker.
Yes.
I actually have this superpower, and I'll actually say this is my mom's superpower because, like I said, refer back to I'm a hot mess a lot of the time. I've told my daughter, if I don't feel bad, if you have to remind me about things, because I will forget. I will say to you, let's get ice cream, and then I'll walk away and forget. Yeah. And she does. She's like, you said we're going to get ice cream. But I can bake a cake. I'm really good at it. And when her birthday comes, it is super serious, and it's like the one thing that I'm like, I am really good at this, and I have made her some super amazing birthday cakes over the past few years.
I've seen pictures of that. That is so awesome. I love the castle cake that you made. It's so cool. She made
this year it was Tunip from the Octonauts. I made a Tunip cake that had a full ocean, side view, and it was blue inside. But the big one, and I have this on my blog, and I share this a lot with people, is when I made Pixie Hollow. And what you have to understand when I say it's my superpower is I don't design it. I don't like figure it out. I just like stand with a blank slate, and I sort of stand there and I go, okay, and I just go along and just kind of do it. I just feel along and do it, which is a
Wow.
super dangerous way to work, especially when you've got the pressure of a party coming up. But
That's true
it's
talent.
never failed me.
It is true
It's
talent.
never failed me.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that I am not modest about. Like if you were like, "Oh, you're so pretty," I'm like, "You're not. You're blind," or "You're so smart," and I'm like, "No, you're just stupid." But if you would, I'm like, "I know, I'm a really good baker. I can really bake a cake."
That's awesome. I am totally jealous, 100%. I've got two, like maybe one trick ponies that I've got in my thing, but no, that's awesome.
What are yours? I want to know.
I can do banana chocolate chip muffins.
What? That sounds good.
And chocolate chippy biscuits.
I would like those too.
Awesome. So when did you first visualize yourself as a writer and producer?
I didn't at all. I didn't. It was something that I discovered that I could do. Again, I go back to I have a poetry degree. Who has a poetry degree? Ugh. And that is what I've found. That I realize, and I've talked about this with people because people often ask me, "Oh, are you writing a screenplay, or are you?" And I'm like, "Nope, I don't have a story that's burning inside of me that has to get out." I know what I'm really good at, which is just I'm good at writing snappy, funny, short bits of dialogue. I can write really natural dialogue between hosts, and I can write smart and smart and historical and interesting layered jokes, but again, meant for banter. But it's something that I discovered that I was good at, and I recently got a letter from my dad, or let me not say a letter from my dad. Let me redefine that. My dad often sends me envelopes full of like newspaper articles, and I don't know what it is that I'm supposed to read on them. It just seems like random clippings that have some of them aren't. I just don't know.
It's so
he just
sweet.
sends me weird stuff. It's so weird. And he recently sent me, and sometimes there'll be weird things in it. And recently he sent me 2 copies of my birth certificate, something else, and this letter that was from a man who was a very big part of my life growing up, which was Willard Wirtz, who was the Secretary of Labor under Johnson. And he was like a grandfather to me. And he sent this letter to me, and it's dated, like, I should get it out. It's in my drawer here. It's dated like 1980 something. I mean, it's an old letter, and in it, he apologizes to me. He says, we obviously had just had lunch, and he says to me, and I was a teenager, I must have been in high school, and he said that he apologized to me because he said, "You must have found the conversation boring and a bit condescending that we were having, because I've just read a report that you wrote about the Black Plague, and your writing style," he just was like, "You are very, very talented. You're a talented writer, and for your age and the research that you did and the levels of observation that you made and the points that you made about this historical thing was just incredible." And it was such a nice, like, and basically he was saying, so I apologize he said, had I known that you had written this, and so he's like, he was basically saying, I apologize for treating you like a teenager as opposed to like this very smart person here. And I sobbed like a baby. I read this and I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. Like, I thought, I didn't know that I had any talent whatsoever.
Wow.
And for somebody to say that to you about, essentially, it was a research paper. We were required to do a research paper every semester in my high school, and it was a research paper that I had done about the Black Plague. And by the way, my research paper next year was about the Black Plague. That was the one in the 1300s, and the next one I did was like the next one in the 1500s. Hi, gothic teenager girl.
A theme going on there.
Black Plague, we do.
It's so cool that your dad, to write that's just something you'll treasure for life, I reckon.
Awesome. Oh, it's such a nice, and he was a very big influence on my life. He was an amazing man, and he was an amazing writer. I mean, even this letter, the way it's written is just, it's sublime. It's just, you really say they don't make them like that anymore.
So what 3 qualities do you believe have made you a success?
I don't know if you want to call me a success,
I
but
do.
I, okay, but um, well, a long time ago I was working for my cousin. It's his business. Like I was 20 something, and we had this new girl, and she was really uptight. And he pulled me aside and he said, "Something that you bring to the office is a lot of levity, and could you please, sort of warm her up or whatever." And I remember thinking, what are you talking about? What does that mean? And now that I'm 1,000 years old, I think, oh, I see what he was talking about. Is that and now I think part of when you get older and you can actually look back at the patterns in your life and you say, oh, you start to identify, oh, this is this and this is that, or this is why this happens. And it's good and bad. But I realized, oh, a lot of the jobs that I've had is because I'm really silly, and people, I mean, it's fun. Like I like to have fun in an office, and I think about him saying that. I think, oh, I bring levity to an office. Oh, I get that. And I had when I moved away from New York and was in LA, I was contacted by a friend of mine at a temp job, like my boss at a temp job that I'd had years and years ago, and she said to me, "Oh, I just miss you all the time because I'll be dealing with some stupid bullshit, and I will think, oh, if Kristen was here, she would just walk around the corner right now, late, and be like, ah, forget that. Let's go get coffee and talk about whatever." And I thought, oh, I guess I've done this at like every job where I'm just like, whatever, who cares? So I guess levity is something. Um, I'm also always willing to do the shit work, if that makes any sense.
Definitely.
A lot of writers want to do the deep funny, the big funny stuff, the big splashy stuff, and they don't, and that's fine, and I like to do that kind of stuff too, but I also will always be like, okay, I'll do this, I'll write this thing that nobody wants to write, But somebody in promos wants us to rewrite their copy and make it in the voice of the show, and I don't mind I mean, I'm not a so that's something else I know that is because I'm like, I don't mind doing the stuff that nobody else wants to do. And I guess, I mean, 'cause somebody's got to do it. So it also it also keeps you from being expendable too. I think sometimes it's a very good quality to have, because there's a moment where they go, ooh, you do a lot here, I think a willingness, and I don't know if this is a separate thing, but I think a willingness to jump in on things that are not in your job description.
Going above and beyond.
Yeah, like even to help people do their jobs too if they need help, and not sort of sit back and be like, I'm not being paid to help you, rewrite your field piece. I'm not being paid to help you with your, because sometimes when you're in television, other producer, there'll be a producer who's in charge of a segment, and you're not in charge of writing that segment. But I've had people come to me at jobs and say, would you mind looking this over? And I could say, that's not my job. I'm only supposed to work on this writing here. But you know what? I mean, when you're part of a team, I think that's part of it too, is just I'm a really good team player because I'm not super egotistical.
That's fantastic. And those are all great qualities to have. It makes people more wanting to help you if you're ever in need as well. Really great.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So what would you like to be remembered for?
Oh, no one's going to remember me. I mean, if I think about my daughter, I think about my daughter remembering me someday. And I wonder how she'll remember me. And I had a friend who said she was doing something with her daughter, and she looked up and her husband was looking at her, and he said to her, she's going to remember this. Like, this is something. And I feel like I've had those moments with my daughter where I think this is something that you will remember forever. Like, you will think about your mom when I'm gone, and you will think about your mom, and you will think about this, what we're doing right now, or just a little tiny thing that just happened right here. I mean, I'd like her to remember me as somebody that gave her the tools that she needed to cope with the world and all of the crazy stuff that goes on in the world.
Absolutely. Life is totally about creating memories and also setting them up for success, isn't it? So that's great. So Is there a charity that you're passionate about?
I have picked up the gauntlet from my dad, who always donates and campaigns for St. Jude's, which is Danny Thomas's charity. Danny Thomas always promised God that if he was ever successful, that he would have this that he would create this charity. And St. Jude's has done a lot of good work for the world and for children. And my dad's philosophy was, instead of giving little bit,
Mm-hmm.
if I make a concentrated effort at giving all my money to the lion's share of my donations to this charity, then that I can do a greater good. So that, and I feel that way too about that charity. And I'm also on the board of a charity called the Elizabeth Lulu Scholarship Foundation, which is friends of ours. Their daughter died when she was 13 years old of cystic fibrosis, and it's a lot of cystic fibrosis kids. They drop out of school because they're in the hospital so much. A lot of times they miss lessons, and they don't have a long life expectancy. So they sort of get a little bit like, well, why am I bothering with school anyway? So her parents, after she died, rallied, and they created this scholarship in her name, so that with the idea being that by sending another cystic fibrosis kid who was working hard at their future, by going to school and thinking about their future, that we would have a scholarship fund that was for them, that they could use the money to do anything to fund whatever they want in school. And the idea being that doing this, that now Lizzie Lulu gets to go to school every year.
It's so cool. It's a great inspiration there. Do you have a book that you'd like to recommend to our mums and dads?
Oh, I mean, like a parenting book, or like read this to your kids?
It could be a parenting book, or a book that you found helpful in life.
I hate parenting books. Right now, like, the closest I come to a parenting book is I'm reading, but I finally spent the money on it. I bought the stupid Whitney guide to the Los Angeles school system because I'm like, I don't understand the school system. But
totally.
When it comes to books, I think that you can't go wrong if you look at Chronicle Books, which is a publisher in San Francisco. They are doing an amazing job of curating really good children's books. My favorite books from them, well, I was going to say right now, but really it's been a long time now, are a series of books about Kokeshi dolls by Anna-Laure Perrault. One's called Kimono, one's called Aoki and Yumi, and these books are so beautiful that you want to just like rip them apart and put them all over your walls. And they've got little flaps and pop-ups that are just like, there's one where she comes into a store in Tokyo and you open up the flaps and it's all the shelves, and it's just like being in Tokyo when you walk into a store and you see it's overwhelming. And she even says in the book, oh, it's so overwhelming. Those books are so beautiful, and my daughter reads them. They're often on her queue at night when we go to bed. She chooses those books because they're just endlessly lovely.
Great. I'll have to have a look into that for my girls. They sound great.
Yeah, they really are great.
Yeah. So do you have an internet resource like Google Plus that you just love right now?
Do you know what I love right now? I am obsessed with a website called Clickin' Moms, which is a photography website. It's a private website. It's a paid membership. You have to pay to join. And it's all, even though it says it's moms, it's not necessarily limited to moms. It's all women and a few men who are just super interested in photography. And there are a lot of moms on there who have become photographers and started their own businesses. But most of all, I love it because it's a very warm and friendly environment where no question is a stupid question. There's no sense of, we've been here longer, so we're better than you. Like when new people come, they're welcomed very warmly. And when people ask questions, there isn't a sort of snooty, you don't know about that. Oh, you don't know about Boca. Oh, you don't know. It's a very much like, it's very, very, it's very open and friendly. And it's my new, like when I can't sleep at night, which is often, I find myself just now reading tutorials on there and just boning up on photography skills.
Sounds like a lovely community there. It's great.
It is. It is.
So, what are you excited about right now?
Um, I I've been trying to pare down on things. I was reached a point where I thought it's super sad. My life feels really super saturated.
Mm.
So let's start to pare things down. Um, so right now, I said to a friend of mine, this is what I'm interested in: children's television, Japan, and photography. Like those are my three things that I'm excited about right now. I'm actually working on something right now. I'm working on I'm working on a couple of projects that are parent based,
Awesome.
and and I'm very interested in children's media right now. I'm really interested in how it works, what's being sold to children, and um, uh, I have a couple of things going on there that I've been working with a couple of people, a couple of projects that I'm working towards, and I'm also all I want to do is go back to Tokyo. Um, we used to go quite a bit when my husband and I were at G4 because we covered a lot of the Japanese. We had a segment called "What's Up with Japan," and of course they also wrote for Ninja Warrior. And sometimes Tokyo is the only place I've been to that I thought, oh, this kicks New York's ass. That's the first place I've ever thought this is like New York on crack. And I felt like, oh, my heart is here. I love that city so much. So I've also been working with a friend, like shamelessly working with a friend where all we do is try to come up with ideas for shows that would make us be able to go back to Tokyo.
You got to do it.
That's all you know. It's like, we're like, how can we get somebody else to pay for us to go to Tokyo so that we can buy stickers and, and clocks that ring with the JR line songs.
That's awesome. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you come up with the children producing children's programs as well. I'll keep my eye out for that.
Thanks.
This question is really to help our mums and dads who perhaps really love writing and producing, perhaps as an assistant or at a junior level, but they'd like to get up to the head creative director,
Right.
producer and writer. And are there some steps that you would recommend that they take to get to that level?
You know, I said before, a lot of luck is really opportunity and having the skill set and being prepared for opportunity when it comes. But I also think, as far as writing goes, um, you can, especially in television where things are very fluid and change all the time, if you're not precious about your work or your jokes that you're writing or your sketch that you wrote, you know, if you don't be precious about things and don't take things personally, even if somebody snaps at you, like, I mean, I've done so much live television, and when you do live television, even when you do, so even in the studio and we've done tape television, people get snappy, and if you start taking things personally, if you take it personally when your sketch gets cut, or you've been working on something, or you've got a joke, or you have a joke and you think this is so so funny, and then they cut it and you can't get past it because you like, but this joke was so funny. If you can just let it go, you you'll go. I think it helps, and I think part of how I learned that was from being on a live show for so many years, because you just don't have the time to be in love with your own voice and you don't have the time to sit around patting yourself on the back about how funny you are, because you have a show to do, and the show is going to be live at 4 o'clock, and nothing is going to stop 4 o'clock from coming. So you just have to get the show going. And if they cut your sketch, then you just have to come up with a new sketch. Or if they cut your line, you've just got to come up with a new line. And sometimes you have to do it in a commercial break. And so you don't have time to be in love with yourself and your creation and your art. If you let go of the idea sometimes of your baby, like, this is my baby, I think it's good to be flexible that way.
That's such sound advice, thick skin and just a step removed. So if things need to be changed, just roll with it.
Yeah, just roll with it. And sometimes, you know, what you thought was really funny and really sometimes when it changes, it becomes something even better and funnier. And I mean, I'm talking about in live TV, but you know, just in general too, when you're so sold on something, I mean, it's good to be like to believe in yourself and to believe in what you have, but you also have to, if you have to listen, it's good to listen. And like I said, don't be like, this is my baby, you're insulting my baby, because sometimes what happens to it can be even better.
I totally agree. I totally agree that change can actually bring you to greater greatness or greater success. So yay.
Yeah.
On the same page there. Now, before we say goodbye, Kristen, is there some final inspiring words that you'd like to share with our listeners, and perhaps how we can get in touch or follow you?
Oh no, you're asking me to give you a quote.
Oh no,
I won't do it. No, I'm just doing it. Tried to trick me into with a quote on it. You know, I guess I mean when I go to a baby shower for a new mom, I usually say to them, you know, everything changes. Here's the thing: is everything changes, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad, but everything changes. So sometimes you have like a kid and your kid is like super smart and they, you know, they are reading on a, you know, fourth grade level and they're only 2. Do you know what I mean? And you're kind of like, whoa, look at me. Guess what? That can change in a minute. You know, they could also the next day stop doing that and just be obsessed with eating dirt. You know, so everything changes. And then the other side of it is maybe you have a kid who likes banging his head against a wall, but you know what? That's going to change. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So that's usually what I tell new moms when they ask me like, oh, what do you, and I say, everything changes, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad, but it's going to, no matter what, it's going to change. So it keeps you humble when things are good, right. But it makes you, but it also keeps you sane when things are bad, that, you know, this will change.
Yes. So how can we get in touch or follow you?
I'm Kristen Says on Twitter because it wouldn't let me be Kristen Rutherford. I would have had to be Kristen Rutherford. And so I'm Kristen Says, and I have a website, which is kristenrutherford.com, which is TEN. I'm a 10, not a 10, which has all the localized, like you can send me an email there, you can follow me on Twitter, I have a blog, I have a blog, but when I say I have a blog, I'm using that term very loosely because sometimes I go through flurries where I blog, and then there's like nothing for a while. So, but you feel free to subscribe to my blog, but and just let's call it, hey, look forward to these infrequent updates.
Sounds great. Well, I'll have those in the show notes on theparentalist.com. But I just want to say, Kristen, thank you so much for being so generous with what you've shared today. And it's just been a pleasure to get to know you better. And we wish you every good thing for your journey ahead. Thank you.
Oh, we love you, Sarah. I love you guys, and you know I'm huge fans of you, and I love My Little Geek. That's the best. That book was the best book ever.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Kristen's great, right? I really love that everything changes quote as well. So please head over to theparentalist.com. You'll have all the show notes there, but also you can send her out a thank you tweet. It's as quick as clicking a button, and I know she'll really appreciate it. So have a great week. Have a great weekend, because you know what? You're pretty great. See ya.